Hello and welcome to your in-depth weekly horoscope for week commencing the 5th of December for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you some key strands to look out for, but please stay with me. I will then dive deep to give you in forensic detail each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces. Now, of course, we've been in Sagittarius season, and as this week begins, there is still that flavour, the Sun, Mercury and Venus. And Mercury and Venus still very closely together. But we're going to see a change as on Tuesday, Mercury makes its way to the top of the zodiac, the 10th house, very much to do with how we think about our work and how we link to the wider world as it arrives in the sign of Capricorn. But it's going to be joined on Saturday by Venus, and they're going to continue their alliance. This suggests that our people skills and the way that we present ourselves can still be very important in terms of more worldly interactions. But right at the heart of this week, Mars, which has ended that very draining and enervating square with Neptune last week, that comes into play in an exact conjunction with the moon in the sign of Gemini, which is in direct opposition with the sun, with the full moon, and that occurs on Thursday. This is quite a volatile combination, I feel. So we can have very fast moving events, particularly around communications. Also, we may all find ourselves over the next couple of weeks wanting to defend our point of view quite fiercely. Also, some people can just feel enormously restless and want to break out and travel, be more physically active, but it is quite hard to embrace the more nurturing and more emotional energies of the moon in the detached sign of Gemini when Mars in its retrograde is so close to it. And I think, we see a lot of polarization of different viewpoints these days, so expect a lot of that in the following 2 weeks. The good news, however, is that Mars is in a semi-sextile with Uranus all this week. And if we can use our minds and our appetite for learning new skills, it could be a way that we can adopt fresh positions in terms of marshalling our resources. And of course, we're all needing to be much more conscious of the cost of things these days. Also, the Sun is going to be in an opposition with Mars from Tuesday through to the end of the week. So this is not a time to be too impatient, particularly around travel plans, because if we do rush to get to a destination, it's probably something that won't necessarily be to our best benefit. Much better to enjoy the journey and, if necessary, take the more circuitous but more picturesque route, whether metaphorically or actually. But also, as this week draws to a close, the Sun does move into a square with Neptune. So whereas Mars on the other side of the heavens was squaring up with Neptune from the start of October all through November and through the first few days of December, it's replaced on the other side of the heavens by the Sun. So the potential for confusion or amplification of sensitivities is given greater weight as this week draws to a close. Now, before I go on to tell you each of the 12 zodiac sign forecasts, if you would like to understand what year 2023 will hold for you as an individual, and above just the zodiac sign forecast in this broadcast, if you give me 3 pieces of your personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can give you your forecast for next year, the rest of this year free. But in my special package of 30% off, you can also get your life map. This is your character analysis to help you to understand the core energies that are at the root of your very being. Please see the link below for more. If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for joining me, and I'd be grateful if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. If you're a long-term viewer, thank you so much for all your views. So Pisces, your week commencing the 5th of December forecast sees that full moon in the 4th house. The 4th house is very much about our emotional dimension, where we live, how we live there, and who with. Can be to do with our environmental senses. Some people like to be in a very busy, urban, quick-moving environment. Other people like to be somewhere that's quieter and more peaceful. The 4th house influences this, just in slightly different ways. But you put Mars in the mix, as we have this week, in its retrograde, although it's no longer clashing with Neptune, your co-ruler, which has made things very sluggish. If you have been feeling a bit unsettled where you live, I think this energy can really reach a climax this week. What to do? Well, the thing is, by the end of this week, the Sun replaces Mars in terms of the square to Neptune. So that can still create a degree of uncertainty between what you feel you need to do for yourself, the individual, and what you need to do in terms of how you connect to the wider world, because the Sun's in the 10th house, very much to do with work and responsibilities. But Mercury and Venus, crucially, move into a much more sociable phase of the year for you. That's going to be augmented from the time of the winter solstice by the Sun. So 11th house energy is much more connective. It's about your network, your group of friends, but also your longer term planning. So I think if where you're living is the key part, or who you live with, there's not enough space, or perhaps it feels too remote where you're actually located, or it's too noisy, too quiet, whatever it is for you, that topic can really reach a tipping point this week. And then as Mercury and Venus sweep into your 11th house, they're pushing you to think about things in a longer term way, but also seek the counsel of the people you really respect and trust. Old friends, perhaps close family members, particularly the type of person who can be actually a little bit more challenging and actually tell you how they feel in a very authentic way without fear or favour, because those are the people that can actually give you a sounding board that's very genuine, rather than just necessarily feeling it from your viewpoint. Actually, some counter viewpoints could actually be very valuable, because if you are thinking about changing something that's really fundamental at the core of your life, the 4th house, then I think some discussion that's a bit more detached, airy, the 11th house is very much to do with communication, can be very, very helpful to you indeed. Of course, it could be that this emotional energy that comes up with this full moon could be about your work. If you've got a job that you're not really enjoying, it's not gratifying you in a more emotional way, you're going through the motions in order to get the money, it's boring, it's cold, it's noisy, whatever it is, I think this is a week which is going to make you think about this imbalance in your situation in a very direct way. But then with Mercury and Venus's help, you have an opportunity to steer things in a more appropriate way longer term, but you have to get over the fact that the Sun square to Neptune, which will go into the week following this one, can still be quite blurry, can still create a degree of uncertainty, affect your clarity and your logic around situations, because it can be a bit more subjective. And of course, we have to sort of keep a roof over our heads, so sometimes we have to make trade-offs against what we really enjoy and what gives us the security that we need. So that's another issue that may inform this week, finding that level of security that balances the more financial side of your life with the more emotional feeling side of your existence.